You guys asked for it, so this is the top 10 must-read books of 2020. The first book that we have is my absolute favorite. I believe this is the third or fourth time I've read this book. It's an oldie but a goodie. This is Walden by Henry David Thoreau. If you haven't read this in a while, I absolutely love it, obviously. The first chapter is kind of long. It has a lot of really good sage one-liners. It gives you a lot to think about. And what I really love about this book is that there's two things. One is that it offers a different way of life than the typical American way of life, the American dream. How do we define wealth? Is it the person who has no time to enjoy life, who's busy working all the time to amass all these great things that can be burnt up, disappear, go away, you can lose in an instant, and your life's never guaranteed for a tomorrow? Or is somebody who's rich, who has time to enjoy the small things in life and in nature and keeping a simple life? So definitely it's a counterculture to the normal American messaging where you get all these advertisements every day, you need more, more, more. Walden is the exact opposite of that and challenging us to change our way of thinking. And do we really need this mass consumerism? What's good for the planet? What will the world be like in 175 years? There are so many deep things wrapped up in this book, way ahead of its time. There are some sections at the back of the book that are a little bit or extremely boring. They focus really intently on nature. However, I like to read this book kind of like a spa-like format. So if you really are stressed out and you need to just focus your mind on something relaxing, some of those slower passages are really great for that. And it just is a good reminder to really focus on nature. I try to think of and can almost hear and see the sunlight filtering through the leaves, the sound of the wind through the grass. Absolutely love Walden, especially if you love nature. The second book that we have is another oldie but goodie. This is To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee. And I will say this book was, when I first read this, I was in high school. And the story covers a lot of different things. At the base of it, there is a black man who has been accused of a crime against a white woman. He's completely innocent. However, unfortunately, the southern town in the United States convicts him. And it is interesting to see how everything unfolds. There's lots of different characters. The attorney is going to be representing this gentleman who knows that it's the right thing to do, and he does it and he wants to do it, but he does know that he's gonna face some repercussions from the town, but he's gonna do it anyways because he knows that it's the right thing to do. And I really when I was 16 reading this book, that's kind of what I focused on, was the racial tensions in the South. And the book is definitely about that, so I don't want to diminish from that. But the piece that I really focused on this time and I thought was just so amazing based on when this book was written was there's the little girl in the book, her name is Scout, and she's very confident in who she is. She doesn't want to wear dresses. She wants to crawl and run and jump and get dirty and have fun and explore. And people have comments and they'll say to her, "You're not a proper young woman. You should be wearing dresses. You should be doing this." And she's like, "I don't care. This is what I want to do." She was very confident in herself. And I absolutely love that, because with the internet now, everybody has an opinion. Everybody is shouting their comments out at you. And I just loved being that reminder of be true to yourself. Remember who you are as a core, as a person. It was really delightful, especially because this book was written well in advance of the internet. So it's kind of strange that this book that was written way before the internet era had such an impact on me. The third book that I have for you is The Kite Runner. This book, I absolutely loved it. In fact, it was so realistic that I had to Google, is The Kite Runner based on a true story? And if you're interested, no, it is not. But the author just conveys things so realistically, it doesn't feel fake. It feels so real. It follows two characters. Two young characters. There is a boy from a wealthy family, and then there is another boy. He is the son of the wealthy family's servant. So his father is a servant. So he's the son of a servant. These two boys growing up in Afghanistan, and it's just a beautiful story of love and imperfect love. These are all imperfect characters. There are several imperfect characters, and they are trying to find their way back, trying to make things right, even when they can't ever make things 100% right. You see them trying, and it is such a triumph at the end. Bring your tissues. It'll make you cry so many times, but at the end, it is so bittersweet. It is wonderful. I honestly cannot wait to read this book again. It was incredible. I love it. Make sure you pick it up. The next book I have for you is Dune. This is going to be a major motion picture, fingers crossed, October 2021. It was supposed to come out in 2020, so I put this on my list. This was one of my most surprising reads because the first chapter I read it, I'm like, oh no, I don't like this. I'm very lost. I'm very confused. But I didn't give up, and by the end, I love this book so much, so much. It's super complicated. I was reading The Great Gatsby and I was saying, oh, I don't think a book could be that complicated. This book is that complicated, and it's even longer. And it touches on so many deep topics, but it didn't feel deep. It was very inspiring, and it makes you think about what it is to sacrifice, what it is to be a leader, and about the environment, the sacrifices that we need to make to have a good environment, protect those around us, and what it means to protect the land for many, many, many years to come. I absolutely love this. If you're struggling with Dune, I did make another video with 7 tips to help you get through Dune, because like I said, I started off in the first chapter and I'm like, oh no, I'm gonna spend 600 plus pages totally confused, but I absolutely loved it. This is my #1 book for 2020. I absolutely love it, and definitely check out the audiobook. It's awesome. All right, the next book I have is Withering Heights, but I have this is a runner-up. This is Home Before Dark by Riley Sager, if you're into thrillers. I put that in the list because Withering Heights, I actually got that from the library before the pandemic started. And Withering Heights, it was written in the 1800s, and I absolutely love it. I could best describe it as a bedtime story for adults. You follow 2 people, Heathcliff and Catherine. They have this kind of unrequited love situation. It's dysfunctional, but it's very entertaining. I really, really enjoy it. If you haven't really checked it out, some of the books from the 1800s are really interesting because initially the book was published 1 chapter at a time in a newspaper or newsletter. Each chapter had to be awesome, spectacular. If it wasn't, they would just be cut from the publication. So you definitely did not have a 100 to 200 page warm-up. It was awesome. Next book. This is The Golden Compass by Philip Pullman, who is my new favorite author that I discovered in 2020. This book has the series, it's called His Dark Materials Trilogy. It has been made into an HBO miniseries. This book has so much magical wonder and delight. It was such a needed escape this year with everything going on. You have these demons, which are an animal extension of a person. You have adventure, you have armored bears, you have witches, you have zeppelins, you have balloons, you have so much more. You have a strong female character. I love this book so much. It was wonderful. I cared about the characters, just everything. The prose was wonderful. I cannot speak enough about this book, this author. If you watched The Golden Compass that had Nicole Kidman in it like a long time ago, it doesn't do the book justice. In my opinion, even the HBO miniseries, the trilogy doesn't do the books justice. I absolutely love this book. It's a wonderful adventure. Highly recommend it. And I don't consider myself to be a fantasy person, so definitely pick this book up, make it all the way through to the end. I know the beginning is a little bit of a warm-up, but it's really worth it. I love it. This is book 7, No Time Like the Future by Michael J. Fox. So you may know Michael J. Fox for his role as Marty McFly in Back to the Future 1, 2, and 3. Most recently, he was on The Good Wife. He was a disabled attorney, Louis Canning. He, in addition to being a very famous movie star, in his late 20s, he was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. In this book, he talks about his most recent health struggles while maintaining a positive attitude. This year, I also struggled with an absolute major health crisis. And this book was wonderful because, like so many of you, the darkness looms close. It's very, very easy to feel sorry for yourself, and rightly so. But I wanted some tips to how to fight back that darkness in whatever days that I do have left, that it's filled with light and positivity. Absolutely loved his book. It was light and funny, even though some of the topics are not light and funny. But it was amazing. I enjoyed the book, and I also really enjoyed the audiobook, which he actually narrated the audiobook himself. So definitely go check that one out. Book number 8. This is another one by Philip Pullman. This is Serpentine. This is a very charming short story. It will only take you about 15-20 minutes. So if you're behind in your reading goals, definitely pick this up. However, I will say a caveat with this one. You would have to read, for this one to really make complete sense, you would have to read all of his Dark Materials trilogy, which would be The Golden Compass, The Subtle Knife, and The Amber Spyglass, and specifically The Amber Spyglass, because this little short story heavily references The Amber Spyglass. But it does have all of that magic. It has Lyra and Pan in it again, and it is filled with adventure. It also has subtle meanings in it. If you read it a couple times, you'll start picking up on more and more things. It was a beautiful book. It's beautifully illustrated. It was just magical, and I loved it. It was like seeing an old friend again after being apart for many years. It was just a wonderful welcome read. 9th book. This is an oldie but a goodie. This is The Great Gatsby by F. Scott Fitzgerald. There is actually a sequel that's coming out in 2021 called Nick. But back to The Great Gatsby for a minute. You have this character Gatsby. He's new, back on the scene. He's trying to win back his long-lost love, Daisy Buchanan. On the day that he's ready to tell off Daisy's husband, everything goes horribly wrong. This book does touch on some deeper issues such as classism. It's so intricate and so complicated, but perfectly woven together in a very short book. It was wonderful, delightful, and magical. Definitely read The Great Gatsby. I was even picking on some very subtle nuances which totally changed the meaning of the entire book for me. Definitely go pick up The Great Gatsby and pick up Nick, which will be available in 2021. And last but certainly not least is our book number 10. This is The Book of Dust, Volume 1, La Belle Sauvage by, you guessed it, my favorite author, Philip Pullman. So after his Dark Materials trilogy, Philip Pullman wrote 2 different books so far. It's called The Book of Dust, Volume 1, which this is this book, the La Belle Sauvage. It is 10 years before his Dark Materials trilogy. Lyra is just a baby. And then he wrote another book called The Secret Commonwealth, and that is 10 years after his Dark Materials trilogy, where Lyra is about 20 years old. So this is the book where Lyra is a baby. We're introduced to a new character named Malcolm. Philip Pullman, he does an excellent job building up a character. So for the first 200 pages, it seems a little bit slow, but he's getting you to really care about this character, Malcolm. And he does a fantastic job making you really feel connected to this character, because then there's this great big flood and there's so much adventure and you care so much about Malcolm. You feel like you're sitting in the canoe with him going on this great, crazy, wild adventure. So much fun and excitement. I absolutely loved it. I stayed up way too late reading it because it was so incredibly awesome. It was magical. Lyra didn't play that big of a part because she was just a baby, but just everything and knowing all the meanings that she has to come because I read his Dark Materials trilogy. It was just perfect and wonderful. It was not a disappointment. Some people write a trilogy, then the second one you're like, it's not that great. It was awesome. I loved it. 5 stars. So those are my top 10 must-read books for 2020. Let me know in the comments what was your favorite book that you read in 2020 and what you're looking forward to reading in 2021. If you believe that books create ideas and ideas change the world, let's change the world one book at a time. Make sure you're subscribed to my channel. I'm Lisa of Troy, everyone. Peace.